Kid, dog, word up. Got my weed guard and shit. I'm also using the front-facing camera, so it might not be in the best quality, so just letting you know now. That's not kind of the point. The point is to answer some fucking questions. So, we've got Archie's iPad. He claims it's not pink. He says this is salmon. Okay, cool. Not pink. Someone asked what my favorite glass company was. I don't. It's kind of like I don't really have a favorite glass company. I like the shit that Mothership's doing, but I like the shit that Toro does too. SGW, I've got one right here. Oh, Robinhood. If you've seen the recycler that I use of Archie's, that's actually Robinhood glass. If you follow him, it's pretty cool. Yeah, just anybody that's making awesome shit right now. Not really. I don't know. Elbow's really popular, but I don't know. The collabs that he does looks better than just his own work, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like the shit, but yeah. Oh, here's some. What state do I live in? Washington. So he said, "What's my profession?" Well, obviously making extracts. He said, "What is your parents' views on marijuana?" Well, they pretty much don't really care. Neither of them really. My dad smokes it sometimes. He thinks wet weed's good weed. If it doesn't burn, that's because it's good. He sold Archie some herb back in like 2002 or something, and it was completely wet, like moist in the bag. My dad's like, "That's because it's the good stuff." Someone said, "Do you ever see 4 and 5 star bubble hash ever being readily available and in demand as BHO currently is?" No. And that's just because it's more, to be honest, most of the people that dab, most of the people that buy oil, not the people that we know and the people watching. Well, maybe there's some of you guys watching this, but a lot of them are doing it because of how potent it is. And yes, there is some hash that's that potent, but the price of it, it just doesn't compare. And a lot of them are actually, what I find funny, the people who started smoking oil before they've ever hit any hash, or I mean, so when I say hash loosely, I'm talking about like bubble hash or full melt dry sift, shit like that. When they see any kind of residue or any weird melting, that they're actually turned off by that. Because when you're dabbing oil all the time, I mean, if you see residue, that's pretty fucked up. So when they're doing it with full melt and shit, it's just kind of, it's weird. There's so many people that haven't seen hash and they started off with oil and they have this weird mindset. And yeah, so I don't know, maybe if, also with making it too, if you take 1 pound of herb, you're going to get a hell of a lot more oil than the best grade of hash. So keep that in mind. How high can you last with that? Or how high can you last without eating the munchies? I don't get what that means. I'm sure what he's trying to ask is how high can I get without getting the munchies? I don't know. I just get hungry. What are your thoughts on, I haven't even read this one yet. What are your thoughts on how fast the cannabis movement is going? More specifically, would you rather want to see the progression move faster or slow down? So that's the rules and so the rules and regulations can get better organized. In other words, would you want to see global legalization ASAP or see the culture develop in waves? Oh, I get what he's saying. So like boom, now weed's legal everywhere, or doing kind of like what it's doing. I think, well, people are gonna have to learn from mistakes, so it's kind of cool for the other states. I guess it's cool for people who aren't really in the business here, but to like the experiment of Colorado and Washington, obviously, if you look at the way Colorado's going and other states that want to legalize, they would have to, in order to do it like Colorado does, you would have to already have a regulated medical marijuana program that's already up and fully running, and then implement it into that, just like Colorado did. And that's why everything is the way it is and working so awesome, because in 2010, they made the move to regulate their fucking medical with 1284. And everyone hated it. You guys remember the Stanley brothers from American Weed? The older Stanley, he's one of the people who wrote that rule, wrote the,
I don't know if it's a Senate bill or what, but it was 1284. He was one of the people that wrote it because he had a dispensary and he was doing everything, getting stuff tested, doing all the shit right, and everyone else was just kind of doing it fucked up. So he was like, well, how, people are, it was pretty much like Washington in California, and so he wanted to regulate it, and they did. Funny thing, there's a Senate bill that passed here, or maybe the people voted it in, I can't remember, but one part of it was fucked up. It was where your medical doctor had, or your actual primary care physician had to write your rec. You couldn't go to, how we get our recs, how when you go to see the weed doctor, you would have to go to your primary care physician or make that weed doctor your primary care person. So that was the only bad part of it, but the rest was to pretty much regulate the fucking medical marijuana. But in order to do it, you would have to have some state bureaucracy, like the Liquor Control Board is now. But back then, the governor, Christine Gregoire, she didn't want to have state employees be involved with weed because it was federally illegal. Even though the Department of Revenue had already been doing it in Colorado, and the feds didn't fuck with them, she thought something would happen different here. So that was her excuse for not signing it in or vetoing or whatever the hell you call it. So we would have had it regulated and probably made it move a little easier instead of starting from scratch like we had to do. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a lot of people don't know that. The medical law and the recreational law are two different laws. Everything is completely separate. Nothing crosses paths. It's not the same weed. It's not grown it's the same weed, but it has to be grown in regulated facilities and tested and then sold to what are called processors, who package it, and then they have to label it and all that, and then sell it to these state-regulated stores, not dispensaries. So it's totally different than what Colorado's doing, if you're familiar with that. Sit down and figure out how much you spend on pizza each year. I'll get back to you on that one. So this guy's asking about how it's gonna look for legal weed. What's his name? I can't. It's Heroi, HEROICVI1IAN, whatever that says. So he had asked what it's gonna look like, and I look at it like he kind of phrased it with the weed or with the liquor. I think it's gonna be like, I haven't even smoked anything. Take a dab of some Royal Chem. I think it's gonna be like when you go to a liquor store and you see some Monarch down on the bottom, and that's gonna be, and I'm talking in hash, that's gonna be the, darker, not lower. Everything, of course, has to be under 500 ppm total hydrocarbon, meaning you have 20 ppm in butane. Cool. If you have 490 ppm pentane, your shit didn't pass. So a lot of people go, oh, look, my butane's under 25 ppm. What's your fucking pentane? So unless you're using, a solvent without it, but if you're running cans, you're not. So, it'd have to at least be clean, of course. But there's going to be lower grade shit. Same with hash, like fucking pressed keef style. Dirt fucking cheap. Cheaper than what it is now. But all the really, really good shit, I think, is going to be more. Like you see in California with the $100 grams, over $100 grams, and then from the same processors, let's use West Coast Cure for example. They have 2 grams for 40 and shit at some places, or $25 grams. If you look at the menus of places that carry West Coast Cure, and you look at the pictures that they post, people always say, yeah, that's black. Well, all the pictures of it aren't, but they have, Trim Run is a lot cheaper than fucking Premium Nug Run. You just eat it. So, I think the prices are going to be different based on the value of what it was made from. So I'm going to go ahead and take a dab and calm down about that shit. But yeah, so I think there's going to be a gap. Just you see it in California. There's cheap weed, there's $20 grams of weed, and then there's fucking $15 eighths outdoor. So, yeah, cheers.
someone says, if you out your, I'm sure he's on a phone and he meant to push P instead of O, but if you put your butane in a freezer for 24 hours before blasting, will it freeze and prevent any lipids and waxes, which waxes, fats, all that is categorized as lipids, just so you know. Prevent it from going to oil. Pretty much like de-wax. A lot of people will run like a Sub-Zero tube, or now people are getting confused from terp extractors, which makes an awesome product. I've never used it, but looking at their website and what they have to offer, I mean, shit, they build your own kits, just all these shit that I could buy and throw on the sweet leaf if I wanted to, which is pretty cool. But they have a column that's pretty much a Sub-Zero column where it has a jacketed tube to make your whole column cold, and they call it inline dewaxing. And if you followed me for the last year, you know what inline dewaxing is, and it's not that. So that's confused people. And blasting cold, I do recommend doing that, but that's not dewaxing. Even when I was blasting open, yes, I would store my butane in my freezer in 24 hours at least or longer, which is also kind of a sketchy thing that I don't necessarily recommend doing. If you're gonna do it in a chest freezer. One, there's no like fans and shit going on right there. And two, it's even colder. So do it in there. Still, that's not dewaxing. That's just gonna make your butane stay liquid and pass over your plant matter a lot better versus using a can that's at room temperature. And your pressure will be lower and all that, and it'll be closer to like running. When I'm doing a closed loop extraction, it stays below, it'll start at like negative 15 Hg, and by the time all the butane's through the weed, it's not, now that I'm using propane, I'm getting to like positive 5. And when I say propane, I mean commercial, or yeah, 99.9%. It's not research grade like my N-butane is. I don't know what grade, I guess it would be at 99.9, but research grade in propane is 99.99. Research grade in butane is 99.9, and they do make it in higher grades than that even. Same with the propane. But it's not, when people think propane, they think sulfur, like barbecue propane. That's actually not propane that you're smelling. Propane itself is colorless and odorless, just like butane. The only difference is it has one more carbon atom and 2 more hydrogen atoms. It's the only difference between propane molecule and butane molecule. They're both light hydrocarbons. It actually is easier to purge propane out of your oil than it is to purge butane out of your oil because its boiling point's lower. And because of that, it runs faster and all that, but it creates higher pressure. So I'm doing a mix right now. Rubbing out my spine on me. So yeah, I'm explaining to him propane and butane and all that. All because someone had asked me if running cold was dewaxing, you know, like I talked about.
Yeah.
So I was clearing that up. But running cold is good, but after you run cold and you have that solution, if you chill that for another hour or more at like negative 40, you're gonna see a whole bunch of stuff coagulate. And that's stuff that came through your tube. I mean, if you aren't gonna de-wax, run cold over running warm, but I suggest running cold even if you are gonna de-wax. But yeah, a lot of half-assed people will tell you that it is de-waxing, so if you want to take their word for it, go for it. I live in North Carolina. How hard would it be to move and get in the business? Depends on who you know out here. If you don't know anyone out here, it might be hard. If you have a girlfriend and her uncle owns a dispensary, then you can get a job right away. But yeah, it's really hard to say. Experience is one thing. Just to give you an example, anybody that I run into that I know from like high school or whatever, or anybody that I meet and become friends with and they ask me what I do, if they don't have a job that they're completely happy with, they ask me if I can get them a job. It's so, I almost like don't want to tell people what I do anymore because people keep thinking I can get them jobs. And same thing with patients that come in. Like 1 out of every 10 patients will ask you how you got a job if you're bud tending. So, I'm gonna get sidetracked here for 1 second. Daniel Castillo, the short Mexican skater from Chocolate. I watched the 20-year Chocolate Epically Latered, and he's a bud tender now. That's a trip. But back to what I was saying. So yeah, it really depends.
to give you an example of someone that did it like on their own, Kosher Concentrates, he was actually making oil in Florida, and then he moved up here and was buying. Now, keep in mind, he had enough money to where he could go to farmers markets and buy $500, $600, $700 quarter pounds, bring them home, make oil, and then sell that oil for like $30, $35, sometimes $40 a gram, to make seriously skin on his teeth profit. But he ended up getting highest terps at the first Secret Cup up here, and then ended up working with a grower and baking it. I don't know if he's still up here doing it, but yeah, that's a good example of someone that already knew what he was doing at home and then moved out here. Someone said, "Happy Thanksgiving." You too. Someone, again, I answered that. He's asking me what's the future of like weed and concentrates. I might go more in depth on it in a different video. Okay, so someone's asking about the clear. And people use the word steam distillation a lot in this. I want to clear that up too. Steam distillation is actually when you use H2O, or maybe you can use other things too, but what I know, it's with H2O, but you're actually boiling steam through plant material. Actually taking oil, what the clear is, and what it's actually done with is the question. But what it is fucking, I mean, pretty much everyone can agree on it, that it's a distillate, which means it was oil and it boiled into a vapor, just like what we inhale, and then it was recondensed. Okay, and you do that in fractions. The first fraction at lower temperatures, in lower pressure, or not lower pressure, sorry, around maybe they start at atmospheric pressure, but I do know that they go in negative pressure when they're actually pulling the clear. But they'll first boil away everything that'll have the solvents and all the terps in it at temperatures lower than the temperatures that actual THC and CBD and the other cannabinoids will boil at. And it all has to do with their molecular weight. Just like when we were talking about propane versus butane, the propane has a lower molecular weight than the butane. And the butane has a lower molecular weight than the fucking pentane. And the pentane has a lower molecular weight than the hexane, I think. And then what's the next one? Octane, gasoline. That one has a higher molecular weight than all of them, and that's why it stays liquid at room temp. Hexane does too. Methanol has a lower molecular weight than ethanol, and that's why it comes out first when you're just like, if you're making alcohol and the shit that goes, or when you're distilling booze, you'll see them, they'll call it their heads and they'll pour that out. That's because it's got methanol and acetone in it, which both have a lower molecular weight than ethanol. So molecular weight has to do with its boiling temperature. Water has a higher molecular weight than alcohol, and that's why you can boil the alcohol out of the water. So let me go back to what I was. So with all the terps and all that shit, those are going to boil out in any solvents, which is usually alcohol, because they winterize it before they put it in here. And we're talking about oil. You're taking oil, winterizing it with ethanol, putting it into a vessel that's going to heat up and turn it into a vapor. So after they've got that first fraction out, take that flask away, put a clean flask on, and then heat that up and probably go to lower pressures and make it all turn into a vapor, and then recondense in that flask, right? We're talking round bottom flasks, just like on the Rotovat. So then you're also going to have a third fraction, the second being what the actual clear. The third is what didn't boil out of the flask, like the shit that's on your nail after you dab. If you take a whole bunch of dabs over and over, after like 40 dabs, you'll go, huh, I'm getting a little bit of something on there. If it wasn't de-waxed, it'll happen a lot sooner than that. But back to what I was saying, you'll have that flask, and then you can hold it up to light and take a Dragon Ball picture. It looks cool. But yeah, it's a distillate, and that's why they'll add food grade terps back to it, because there is none in it. I like it without the terps though. I think, oh, it's gone, I think. We had a little bit here that we were dabbing on. So someone asked, like someone immigrating here for legal weed. I don't know what it costs. I mean, the weed prices, if you don't get your rec, you're going to pay more for weed than you, even if you do get your rec, weed's still cheaper in Colorado. So if you're looking at the prices of weed, look at how much you smoke versus how much more the rent is over there, if it is even more. But yeah, if you're moving for weed, please have like a job or something in mind. Don't just move for weed, unless you're sick or something. But of course, you're getting your rec if you're sick. But if you're moving for weed and you're gonna do that, it's like, for instance, you can get like that. If you follow my channel back when I had lived in a duplex, like the first one when I first started on this channel, I think that was like $700 a month. And you can get shit for between $6. You can get studios for $4 to $5, like nice studios. But when you get into the city of like Seattle, shit doubles. So it's a lot more. But you can live outside of the city of Seattle, like in Kent, or even up in Everett, Farmer John territory, or you can live in Bellevue, which is going to cost you even more. But there's places that you can stay outside of the city that are cheaper. Someone from Colorado, leave in the comments how much it costs to stay out there. Maybe you can stay up north, like in Aurora or something, and then go down to Denver and get your weed, because I know Aurora don't like the weed for some reason. Shout out, that's where that, people know Aurora because of the fucking shooting. And they know Aurora due to movie theater shooting, but they know Aurora out here is Aurora Avenue, where all the weed shops are, like Freedom and shit. And a Greener Today and Have a Heart. I think Evergreen Patient Network might be on Broadway. That it turns into Broadway when it gets into Everett. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Damn, so show more. Yo, Brett, what do you think about the end of High Times in Amsterdam? How that'll affect the parking?
I don't know that it will affect. I mean, here's what I think. It's just going to go to Barcelona for at least the European one. If it's I mean, this has happened before. If you guys remember, the cops came in and actually raided it, but they actually came back the next day and still did their thing. Versus this year, they just didn't do it at all, which is crazy. So it seems like Amsterdam or Holland in the whole is like fuck weed. So I don't know. Maybe it'll move to Spain, like Barcelona. I guess Barcelona has different laws than the rest of Spain. Or maybe it's Barcelona and the areas around it. I don't know. But I know like the rest of Spain isn't like Barcelona as far as weed stores and shit like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Spaniards. Oh, someone asked me about Cannabis Cure TV. I met him in person, by the way. But I think I'm going to have to talk about that on another video because we're almost out of... Let me take this dab and I'll see. I think it's either 22 or 28 minutes. Cheers. Cannabis Cure TV. Yeah, it's 23. I can talk about him. So, he came out here. First, he went to Denver and stayed there with like Bo and Paul Token Daily. Who else? Dread Smokes Weed. I think he was still living in South Carolina. If you know Dread Smokes Weed from Rare Dankness and River Rock, he's like the head grower for Rare. Or he's like he's Scott's sidekick person. He came from South Carolina, moved to Denver and got a job. Speaking of moving from North Carolina and getting a job, but he used to be in the John Doe Radio live chat, and like he met a lot of people before he actually made the move and made sure he had a job and all that. But I guess it's more about networking online. To do it, I've seen a lot of people do it and it works. I just am lucky enough to live here. But what was I gonna say? I was talking about. Oh, so yeah, Cannabis Cure. I'm getting way better at remembering shit. So he came, and someone stole his video camera when he flew from Denver to California. And you can see different people who had him on their YouTube. Like he was on Token Daily, who got him to make his own YouTube channel. And then he was on John Doe Radio. And then when he came to California, he was on, oh, his friend came out to California and met up with him. I never got to meet the dude in person. I think I met him online, but it was the one. Fuck, I forgot his name. The one that like he has, I think multiple sclerosis or some shit like that. But I forgot the dude's name. Anyhow, you can see him on A Plus TV with Flowers by Ben and Jade Redhead. And who else was he on? He wasn't on CCC or anything like that. But he was on a lot of different shit. Then he came up here and stayed with Adam Hand, the Handmade Apparel. Well, now it's just handmade. The people who do all everybody's hat pins and shirts and banners and all that shit for weed. Does all the TGA shit. Oil slick. Yeah, that Adam Hand. Damn. He's not gonna let me use this next time. So, yeah, so let me ask what Dude was saying. Do you think concentrates like BHO and bubble hash stand much chance in illicit markets? No. I live in the UK, and whilst, oh, I love how you guys talk. Whilst very good weed can, damn, now I'm too high to read. I'll just read what he says in my head, and then I'll translate it so I don't look too stupid here. Oh, he's getting into like depressed shit like Soap Bar. Yeah, oh, you watch his, oh, I guess Cannabis Cure TV makes videos. I'm gonna have to go check. I know he did, but I'm gonna see if he's still making videos. That'd be sweet. But yeah, he came out here 2011, and I got to give him some of my cheese crop and some of my cheese butter and some of my snowcat butter. We got to dab. He had a Sheldon Black piece with a, I think it was a worm from the worm, but it wasn't a noodle. It was actually a curve with a quartz plate under it. That it was like pretty much like an oil dish, but made out of quartz, and it was on a swing, and it'd get really hot. You'd have to turn it, and it'd be hot on your fingers. And Archie had bought one that year out there too, and I actually broke his with map gas. But yeah, we would hit that out of it. He had a cool Sheldon Black, which tempted me to buy Archie Sheldon Black, and then I sold that thing. But back to what I was talking about. Yeah, man, that was sweet. I think that was 2011 he was out here. It sucks. I mean, unless you know somebody that's making it, and then again, they gotta have to know some growers. I know how sketchy it is in the UK with getting shit. From what Greg says, it's the Vietnamese people that are selling weed. It's like Vietnamese gangs, and they put glass in it and shit to make it look more crystally. So if you know someone that's growing, probably some autoflowers, because I know it's easy to get autoflower seeds and all the different seeds. But I mean, if it's a sketchy grow, I mean, you're gonna probably grow some autoflowers. So if you know someone that's growing some weed, have them make oil out of that, and then buy the oil from them. You're probably gonna be paying like 60 or 80 pounds for a gram, which I know is crazy a lot, but it's illegal. So I mean, it's even more fucking sketchy out there. That sucks. Yeah, I guess really the most people that are dabbing out there are the people who are making it, or they know someone that's making it. But yeah, I wish I could talk more about like Greg's situation, but it's so illegal. You just would want to follow him and see what he says. Let me see. Oh, Soap Bar, yeah. Don't fuck with that. That's supposed to be boo-boo, I guess. But I don't know where. Maybe he was in Spain. I think you get better Moroccan hash in Spain. There's a video of Urban Rainbow. He's got Big Buddha on there with some eggs. 2 videos, and he's got a whole bunch of different hashes from Morocco. And that looked fire. If you have a chance and you're watching Urban Rainbow, there's 2 videos. There's one with Archie and the rest of the Herbal Healing Brew at the High Times event. That was a Sunday. I was there the Saturday and went home. And then the Secret Cup, I actually got to make it in that video. So check those out, the 2. Search like Urban Grower or Urban Rainbow, Herbal Healing, some shit like that. Let me see where we're at right now. About 29 minutes, I think. Getting towards the end. Oh, someone said, do you really need a vacuum pump for purging hot water? Yeah.
Fuck yeah, hot water can be enough. People like to talk shit. I think I can say it. I mean, with all the equipment that I use, obviously, I mean, I've tried a lot of different shit, and yes, you can fucking do it. I've smoked oil from people who do it, and believe it or not, second place for the Secret Cup Championship. He won second for in LA, and then he won second for the Nationals. Was made he ran 14 grams into each pan and had like I think maybe 2 or 3 grams of oil, but you blast it in that fucking pan, you have the flattest surface in the biggest pan, and you use the smallest amount, and you let the tane boil away, and the way it's on there, don't scrape it, don't fuck with it. Put it in the hot water, and you let it sit there. And I think he did that like all day, or I don't know the periods of time for doing it, but you have to do such small amounts. That's the thing. The vacuum is for when you're doing more. But yeah, you could definitely do that. People who are telling you that you can't are just people, I don't know why they would do that. I think they're just bitter that they bought something and they're still making as little amounts of oil that they could be purging it with no vac. I don't know. I'm gonna dab some of our I love saying it like that. Award-winning Super Lemon Haze. This is the one that won the most terps at the Secret Cup. Jolioli's videos of it are lost, and our sesh is lost, but I think Marijuana has a video smoking some of it. There might be some other ones on YouTube from other people. I don't know, but a lot of people got some. 2/3 of it went to people at the Secret Cup, and 1/3 of it was the entry. So it was pretty cool. Cheers. I like this year's even better. The entry was made with some 6-month-old shit. This is less than a month old. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out so I can upload it, and then I'll do a part 2 whenever I feel like it. Peace.